So just about to put these guys into the paint booth. Again, just going to get some dark black primer in here just to do some light blocking, mostly focusing in this side, but a little bit in this side too, because it will be kind of in the internal chamber that you're going to get some of that, the bleeding light. And then I've just pinned off or taped off the little pegs and the receptacle pieces as well. Just because that's a big part of what I'll be gluing to make sure we get a really solid connection between these two. And as well, my tape is just going around to make sure that we're not getting any paint on the seam, the area where the glue is also going to go, and that we need it to be very strong. So next day here, we've got I did the insides of the stun gun and just got laid down some pretty nice coat of primer. There. So that looks great, and we achieved what we were really after there in terms of just getting some nice light blocking. That'll definitely give us. That's again that Badger primer is just so great. It gives you such a deep coverage, and it's just awesome stuff. Well, I went a little bit low there. Oops, that wasn't the most brightest way of doing that. So now, thankfully, it's the very furthest part. In terms of the amount of light that's going to be able to get down there, it's probably not a ton that'll be down in that area, but we'll keep an eye. If I end up having to do any more black, then we'll go back and just hit that spot. And in a worst case, I'll do a little bit of testing, obviously, before I seal it up. And if I find that there is some, that's an issue down in there, then we'll just, other options, I can just hit that with the paintbrush too, just manually. I could do it in the airbrush, but for that little bit, that's the one thing about this Badger. It's just in the same way that it's almost impossible to take off plastic once you've got it laid down. That's true of the airbrush. It takes a lot of cleaning. it's a lot of work to actually clean the airbrush. Takes a bit of time, and you have to do. You got to put the work in there because it dries so fast and so hard and firm that the needle's got to come out. And I even often, pretty much, maybe I can get away with twice with the Badger, but I'll have to even take the nozzle off and clean do complete breakdown and cleaning of the brush. So it is a bit picky that way. So if I don't have to do another little bit of that would be great. Okay, so we're set on this now in terms of being ready to start actually putting in some of our lighting and some of the other pieces. Good, so then we'll just go down the middle here, separate these two guys. Let's just grab the first one here and just try putting it on. Okay. So there's the first one there. So that's got a pretty nice just on that circle. So it's preserving the sort of the trench kind of around that circle. So we're preserving that. And then one of the things, obviously, you'll notice there is that the edge, it doesn't come all the way to the edge, so that's where we'll be adding some tape here to bring it out a little further there. Like that. And we'll be doing that all the way around, actually. So the gloss black pieces that came out and look great. They turned out really, really nice. It's the kind of perfect, kind of glossy, high really nice high gloss black. And I'm not sure how well you're seeing it, but it really reflects the light. It's actually pretty great stuff. That's this the gloss black surface primer that's recommended. This is the one that they recommend to go underneath their metallics. And so yeah, so we've got a nice base here, I think, for all these guys. The only one that kind of got a little bit of imperfection here was here. It actually got a little hair landed there, and so I did try to take that out. So because I've got to do some more, I've got to hit that other, my little knobs. I'll probably just lightly sand that out and redo that, just shoot that little area there as well. But that was the only spot that had any kind of... Oh, and this one actually has a slight little bit as well. Of course, just a little bit of an imperfection there again. I think it's a hair. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Probably cat hair. I do try to kind of minimize that and keep things really clean, but there's always a little bit of a risk, and it happened to catch me a couple of times here tonight, which is a little unusual, but anyway. Rest of it, you know, kind of inspected everything, and it all turned out just looking awesome and beautiful. Yeah, so the white primer went down really nice. I'm really happy with that. That coat, and of course I've got the black primer already inside as well, so there's lots of light blocking now capabilities here between the two primers, and yeah, and all this went down really well as well, so really happy with that. Yeah, so I'm just going to do a little bit of initial work here. So I'm going to build the electrical stuff on this side, because that's where the pins, the sockets are, and so rather than having wires kind of up against the pins that go in and possibly interfering and crush, you know, kind of interfering, having them go around these ones won't cause that issue. So this is definitely where I'm going to work from. Should be good. Let me just make sure nothing's touching there. Yeah, no, that'd be good. All right, so let's just connect in our power, which is now on. And let's just test the first piece, which is our top light. That's working great. Looks really good, actually. It's nice and bright. It's awesome. Okay, and so then I need my magnet here. And so nothing here happens when it's just like this, obviously. But once I have some power here, see, click it, take it away. Take it away. It's working perfect. Guys, so just had these guys back in. I sanded down and refinished. Remember, I had a little bit of a hair, cat hair, that landed in here, and so that's all gone, and relaid down the gloss on that, and did the edges as well, so now they're nice and smooth. I did have there was a small defect on one of the edges, so we got rid of that, so really happy. The gloss coat looks great, and I repaired this one as well. There was another little defect, not sure what that was in there anyway. Sanded that out and refinished it as well, so we're good to go on all the gloss. So I'm going to be laying down the aluminum here. Hey guys, so just quick update here. I did do the painting here with my aluminum, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. The color's really perfect. You can see just hopefully you can see anyway, the sort of that brushed aluminum look is just really nice. Big improvement for me over using my chrome silver, which is a really reliable reflector. It's got very large grains, and I've had pretty good success in this kind of circumstance where there's going to be an LED and I want to like reflect as much light as I can. This seems to just work well for me, and so I'm going to actually be coating the insides of that with this, but then I'm also going to be using some clears. Okay, just going to do a little bit of mixing up of these colors. So first one, doesn't actually matter what order I go in. So what I'm going to do is actually put in the transparent color first. So I'm just going to grab, I don't need tons. I mean, these just one little nozzle I'm going to be filling. So I'm going to grab like 3 good blobs. Actually, let me just And I'm just going to add just a teensy bit of silver. One blob. So three good sized drops. And then one of my silver. Let's just mix that up and see where we're at here. Yeah, so you can see it's still transparent, but it's now got some glittery transparent blue. So that's kind of exactly the effect I'm going for there. Yeah, and that's even kind of the right shade of blue, I think. It's kind of, they're kind of dark-ish. All of the nozzle insides have this same thing. Yeah, that's perfect. So let's just try that. I'm going to apply it. The one thing I'm going to do actually, sorry, last minute adjustment here, is to tape that bottom so that there's not going to be any coming out on my aluminum that we've just put in there. Of course, I'm not supposed to tape that right away, aren't I? Well, we're going to take a risk. Supposed to give that 12 hours. Anyway, it hasn't quite been 12 hours. It's been like 5-6 hours. So we're halfway there. All right, so let's just try putting some down in here. Glittery. Zoom out there a little. Glittery and blue-ish. Very slight though, but it just gives that hint. Hey guys, so just working on the trigger mechanism. As you know, I had installed a reed switch here and had a small magnet that I was using on the slider. The problem is that it's just not working enough, consistently enough. It takes kind of some fiddling, and I think it's just turned out, I think that magnet's just a little too small. So I did get a little bit bigger version of it here, and so I'm just going to actually give this a try here right now. And so it kind of just goes in here like this, something like that. So let's just putting it in there, and just for now I'll attach it here if it all works out. Okay, and then this part goes at the front, right? That. Yep, like that. Okay, good. So one light, and so then when I move it down, yeah, we got all four. So now it seems to be working great. Yeah, really happy with that. So yeah, so what we'll do is secure that magnet into place, kind of up in there like that, somehow glued in. So just doing a bit more work tonight on the switch. Couple things. One, I did some CA gluing of the magnet. If you recall, sort of that larger 8-inch magnet, or sorry, 8mm magnet last night, and I just wasn't quite happy with it. It would occasionally flicker. It just wasn't quite enough. It wasn't properly aligned to trigger the reed switch. 100%. It was like 97%. Sometimes it would flicker a little bit, and I just didn't like that. So I know I'm my usual being way probably over perfectionist here, but but also in addition, I had glued it in and tried out the new Bob's gel, and had glued it in and placed it in place overnight. And today I see that and I should have thought of this, the fumes from the CA corroded my paint job. So no big deal. I'm just going to sand that off, and I'm going to have to sand. It actually probably could use a recoating anyway, so I'm just going to sand all of this down a bit, and just rough it up a little bit, and we'll reapply some of that aluminum onto here. I'd also, just for now, I've temporarily got that just glued or taped into place with some really powerful tape. I will eventually CA, but just while I'm testing to make sure that I've got it. And now I think in this position with these two, these are a little smaller, but big thing is they're orientated this way. If you put them flat, they're actually just not as powerful. And so this, having them this way on the reed switch, I've done a lot of testing here, and it's really excellent. So if we put it this way, I'll just quickly demonstrate that here. Oops, sorry. Wrong way. Put that in there, and then we just put him into the gun here, and when it's in like this now, you can see reliably the 4 and reliably the 1, reliably 4, and I can even hold it down and it's just rock solid. So it's just what I want. No weird sort of half, that reed switch, it needs a pretty solid magnetic field, and by having those two kind of configured side by side like that, and in that orientation, seems to be 100% rock solid. I've done quite a lot of testing, and in every case it's perfect. So kind of finished working with the trigger, and so now I'm kind of getting set to really get after gluing this actually permanently together, and doing some fill here, puttying and sanding, and getting this all kind of smoothed and ready for painting. So it's kind of a big step. Up until now, we've been able to, but I mean, it's very reliable. I'm, very confident now in kind of the setup, and how the switch works great, and everything is looking really good here. So I think we're ready, and I'm going to glue it really, really well. The nice part is there's lots of actually plugs and sockets, which make for a really great bond. So I'll be pulling out my old trusty testers for those. They'll give an enormous amount of strength, and just use Plastic Magic, a bead along that on the edge. This stuff's really great too, and would probably hold that just fine, especially given the strength we're going to have elsewhere. Just to keep it very localized and specific to the piece that I want to work on here. So I don't want to make the pins too small, but so I'm not trying to take away any kind of plastic, just removing the primer here. You can see that's just coming off nicely. It's the only one thing that can take Badger primer off that I've found is 320 sandpaper. It's really biting. I had already thankfully taped off along the edge here, so you can see I have a nice clean, the main area that's going to hold the Plastic Magic on all of those little edges is all nice and clean. So it's really just these, just the pins here that I just want to give the best possible chance to be nice strong bonds as well. So the 2 minutes spent prepping will pay pretty big dividends, I think, in terms of just making a solid. Why we care so much, as with anything, anytime that you're putting together two pieces where there's significant seams, would be very evident if they were to crack or to lose your bond. And so because we're using fill and we're, painting, we don't want, we don't want any risk of it cracking. So it needs to be rock solid, like no movement at all. And so, because even the slightest bit of movement on this, and don't forget there will be a little bit of tension here. As you know, that battery fits really nicely in there, but it's snug. It will get a little bit of tension, when you're pushing it in, it'll kind of like stress a little bit. So, which is no problem. I mean, with good amount of glue there, that'll be no particular issue. We'll be fine. But yeah, just one more reason to see what we can make sure we get those pins as good as we can. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put on the Plastic Magic first around the seam. Let me just do one more check on that seam with that cloth. Just where that glue is going. I don't want any dust. So yeah, so let's just go ahead and lay down the Plastic Magic here. Good. So that's got that part, and so then we're just going to add some Nice globs of glue here. The usual testers stringlets here going on. That's okay, we're on the inside of the thing, so it's not a big deal. And let's turn this around here. And I'll try to very carefully bring this down and get it lined up correctly from the get-go, especially on that front edge. That's actually the one where we've got to be. Oops. You just move that down just a little bit there. There we go. And there, something like that. Make sure that, okay, good, that edge was always a bit of a troublesome spot. There we go. We have lots of glue and it's all together. Let's just make sure. Let me just get another magnet here. Double check here, make sure we didn't. Oh, we're looking good. Awesome. We've got so much glue in there, and it's a pretty nice tension fit here already, so it's not like there's really much risk, but I'm gonna just add just a little bit extra tension here as well, like that. And then I'm gonna add it on the other side here too. Lovely. Yeah, so yeah, I just started just doing a little bit of seam work here we obviously had this it's solidly glued together yesterday, so just going to put a little bead, just started putting a bead of fill on here so that it has a chance to dry overnight so that we can get to sanding it tomorrow and maybe even tomorrow night. Being ready to put a coat of paint on here, which would be really awesome. A little bit of 320 just is always a nice one. Just on that first little bit that I laid down here, because it's so rough. This will kind of cut through pretty quick. Yeah, so you can see how much that's sort of just needing some thing out there. So anyway, this is just getting it so that it's nice and level all the way along that front face, and that's just what it takes to get there. So that's the first part of that. So we've got my little, if you recall, the little knobs. There's two different versions of the knobs that go on the side of the stun gun. There's kind of the thick season 1 and then the thinner season 2. So I've done all of them, and if you recall, so I've got the sort of the black with the same kind of gloss coat that I'm applying elsewhere, and so I think they're ready to take off, and so I was just going to do that now. And if you recall, there's I have these little guys to now place to kind of reverse the masks here, and so that should come in handy here to sort of protect these circles now while we do the sort of the silver on the rest of it. just gonna look here. Yeah, it looks really, really great. Really perfect. And so that's one of the ones that we're obviously keeping. And so yeah, what I'll be doing is just applying this right over top of that to protect it. Yeah, again, looks really good. Really, really good. Those turned out awesome. And then, so those I can definitely vouch for. Having those masks is awfully handy to be able to kind of do a really nice job on those guys. There, I think. Yeah. Then just kind of want to just make sure your edges are really good on that. What's interesting is this piece actually, you know, they talk about using it as the actual vinyl application that you would just put down kind of over and use as the final product, which is certainly an option if you want to do that. It's certainly there for you to be able to do that. I obviously didn't, but very doable for sure. So just doing a last little bit of work on the stun gun. I had done another round of putty and some additional primer to just highlight any potential areas. And so it's been a few, as usual, it's been a few rounds of that. So yeah, so just finishing this up and getting ready to lay down my first coat of metallic here. And that'll be exciting to just see where we're going to be sitting here once that's down. A little tricky to when it is painted, so I'll be holding it here, and then I have a little rack that I can place it on, kind of, so it'll be kind of sitting in have a block to put this in, and then this will sit. I'll do that very carefully, obviously. Something you got to think about in advance and have that. And then it kind of sits on the rack, kind of like on the handle here, and sort of balanced. And that should work out, because I did that with the primer just to test my mechanism there to make sure. Because it's one thing with this primer, because that's a good place to test that sort of thing. But when it's paint, it's going to take a while to dry. It's we've got to have a little bit of a good way to do that. I will be using a little bit of heat from the heat gun just to try to speed a little bit of drying along, but still, even with that, you're still going to need some time for it to set up there. So yeah, I think I've got a plan for that. That should work. Yeah, got all my, obviously the LEDs are all blocked off there, taped off. Yeah, I think we're finally in business here. That's obviously the last step. Well, other than to glue in the little add-on pieces, and I'm going to do a little bit of prep here inside, as I mentioned, to get these set for the paint. To take a little bit there. I just have to do a little bit of sanding inside there. What my plan here for these is I'm just going to use actually a little bit of my Plastic Magic, which is a glue that I really, really like. If you've watched any of my stuff, it's kind of my go-to for this kind of thing. Lay a little bit in here. I'm going to just try the first one, and you'll notice I got a nice surfaces on the bottoms here, because I didn't, they're not primed at all. So now what we're going to do is just place that in there and see what kind of bond we're going to get with that kind of approach there. And already I can tell that's going to work really great. It's solid already, and so that's definitely our way to go here. So I'm just going to keep laying in a bit more of the glue, and then just do the process. Yeah, so you can see how that looks. I'm just checking out to make sure at all the different angles that it's all in place there.